I already took his horse.
Nice trip to nowhere.
I feel like my life is slipping through my fingers, and I will never be happy.
I'm not talking about love in all of its forms. I'm talking about the romantic, emotional love.
No forward, whatever. Maybe it's something you ought to think about.
What?
Finding somebody who can give you everything you want.
I have you.
Irina was Tony's first Kumar that we met on The Sopranos. She was a young Russian immigrant who was drawn to Tony's charm, his power, his money.
I'm worn out here.
I'll die without you.
No, you won't. You'll forget about me in 2 weeks.
No, I'm telling you, if you'll go, I'll kill myself.
By the time we start the series, Tony and Irina are already seeing each other, so we don't see their first encounter. But there was a point in time where we know that Tony and Irina did have fun together, like at the very beginning of the show, though that was a different actress for what it's worth. But when he tried to end things with her, she didn't take it well at all.
Anymore. I'm not gonna do it anymore. Take care of you till you get on your feet.
I hate you!
$75,000 in here.
But eventually, her heartbreak turns to rage and a desire to get back at Tony after Tony beat Irina's new boyfriend up with a belt in front of her and then slept with Irina's cousin, Svetlana. He really thinks of her as a troubled kid.
I saw her, but it's not what you think. She tried to commit suicide. I broke it off with her and she tried to kill herself because she said she didn't want to go on without me. The poor kid.
Oh, it's not her fault.
Please.
She has hard life. Her parents, both of them were alcoholics in Petrozavodsk, horrible industrial city. The father died, 55 years old.
What kind of life is there for me without you, Tony?
Hello, Tony.
What do you want?
Well, I thought you might want to know we have some sadness in common.
The last time we hear from Irina is that phone call. We don't see her again.
She's not there. Probably she hides in Brighton Beach.
When Svetlana tells Tony about Irina's childhood and how her parents, how they grew up and they were alcoholics and things were dysfunctional, it kind of then makes a little bit more sense as to why Irina would have an inability to deal with her emotions and with life in a healthy way. She also had to live with her uncle at one point, a rude, miserable man, so who knows what she had to deal with there. She probably was looking for someone to protect her. Dr. Melfi tells Tony at one point that we repeat what's familiar to us, even if we know that it's bad for us. I think she probably just went elsewhere and probably found another guy, probably for the best if it was someone who didn't know Tony Soprano.
I'm trying to quit smoking.
Serial killer. I murdered 7 relationships. Hey, it's you.
I had my eye on one of these.
Gloria Trillo was a Mercedes-Benz saleswoman at Globe Motors and also a patient of Dr. Melfi, which is where she met Tony when Dr. Melfi accidentally double-booked one of her 3 o'clock appointments. Her initial connection with Tony was powerful.
You have good taste.
What if I take it for a test drive?
Gloria reminded him of someone, or maybe a few someones.
Poor you.
But that intensity quickly turned toxic once things inevitably went wrong.
God, you really are in love with yourself, aren't you?
You came to me after attempting suicide over the breakup with Barry.
I think it's very unprofessional of you to confront me this way.
Suicide is something I take very seriously.
Well, the doctor in the ER said it was only suicidal ideation.
Is he trained to give those diagnoses?
I know this kid. She's great.
Was it a genuine suicide attempt, or was it a suicidal gesture?
Right. That's why you asked Tony about it in season 1. Tony's obviously qualified to make that diagnosis. In terms of the cost of loving Tony or being with Tony, we know that Gloria had pre-existing mental health issues that were present before she'd even met Tony. So it's not that Tony came into her life and turned it upside down into something where she felt unstable and unhappy for the first time, but I don't think it helped.
And one thing led to another, and she forbid me to ever see them again.
You smokes crack this fuck.
Tony's inability to really commit to her, for obvious reasons, caused him to eventually retreat from her which then made her even more desperate.
Maybe we'll all get lucky. The way these trucks go by out here, maybe I'll get plastered onto a grill. I'm just kidding. It never rains.
Irina may have talked to Carmela over the phone, but Gloria got to talk to her in person.
At least your daughter doesn't have to latch on to a man for success.
Thank God.
That's a beautiful ring.
Thank you.
Gloria is arguably the most emotionally raw of Tony's Gumars, and I think that's one of the reasons why they bring her back into the test stream, to show that she's still in the back of Tony's mind, and perhaps the audience's as well.
What'd you see in me anyways?
The object is to learn what you saw in me, not what I saw in you.
I love you.
Stop it, Gloria. And we had our, no fall or whatever. And it was great. And now it's time to put it to bed.
Nobody cares if I'm alive or dead.
Not long after, Gloria takes her own life.
La Paz. What's that, Puerto Rican?
Cubana. My mother was Italian, my father Cuban.
A dangerous combination.
When Valentina first met Tony, she was actually with Ralph. But before you know it, Tony takes Ralph's horse, and then Ralph's Valentina.
I broke up with Ralph. This means we can be together. I just want to see you, sometimes.
On the surface, while Valentina seems perhaps more laid back or even-keeled than Irina or Gloria, she eventually becomes not much more than an annoyance for Tony.
He's got a long struggle ahead of him, that's for sure.
I think I'm gonna have the medallions of you.
And a very loud one at that.
Didn't I tell you I hate this shout between rooms shit?
I'm not gonna say I love you. I always say that too soon to guys, and I'm trying to work on that, but... You even gonna look at the brochure?
What is it, sneakers or something?
You're getting a divorce, and I see you less than before.
She burns herself while making eggs, of course it's eggs, for Tony.
I just want your undivided attention, for once. Is it so much to fucking ask for a little bit of attention?
When Valentina's on fire and Tony runs over to her with the blanket and he puts it over her, it reminds me of the blanket that's over Pyomai after she's been burned, which we see Tony pick up as well.
All right, look, I'm gonna take care of everything. The doctor bills, a wig, whatever. And don't worry about nothing.
How many more people have to die for your personal growth?
As for Valentina and what happens to her, it was a mostly superficial relationship to begin with. I do think he had a level of care for Irina and Gloria, but with Valentina, I think it was pretty much all about, just sex appeal.
This is how you leave me? When I'm almost burned to death cooking you a fucking snack?
Come on, honey, you could have just as easily been making yourself something to eat. I'm going back to my wife. That's why I didn't want you hitching your wagon to my star.
I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
I gotta take this.
Last but not least, Carmela Soprano. Of course, Carmela's in a different category from these other women. Carmela's Tony's wife, and they'd been married for over 20 years. So this wasn't just an amorpho situation. But perhaps when Carmela first fell for him, it was. And she hitched her wagon to his star, as they say, and ended up getting married. But what's the cost down the line, if any? I doubt there was the cost then. It was great. But what about now, after all this time? Over time, though, it was harder and harder not to feel both emotionally abandoned and like there was a piano just over the top of their head that could fall at any minute of any day. She had a bad feeling it was only a matter of time before God compensated her with outrage for her sins. Does that moment finally come at the end?
She's becoming a wonderful woman, calm, smart, beautiful, independent woman. Isn't that what you dreamed about?
Maybe someday I will be free.
I know I've brought this up before in previous videos, but when Tony says smart, beautiful, independent woman, isn't that what you dreamed about? He's talking about Meadow, but I think Carmela considers, is that what she dreamed about? And what was the cost of being with Tony Soprano? Was it forfeiting that dream? Thanks for watching. What do you think were the costs of these women falling for Tony Soprano.